So if you've ever heard the terms IB or PYP thrown around and kind of wondered what that's all about, you are in exactly the right place. Today we're going to dive deep into the International Baccalaureate's Primary Years program. It's this global approach to education that's really changing how young kids learn. But, before we get into all the nuts and bolts, let's just pull back for a second and start with a huge question. What is education really for? I mean, is it just about cramming facts and figures into our brains? Or is it supposed to be something more? Well, the IB answers that question with a really powerful mission. See, it's not just about getting good grades. It's about building character. It's about nurturing young people to be curious, to really understand the world, and to feel like they have a part to play in making it a better place. And that idea, that's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the why behind the PYP, and then we'll break down the framework. After that, we'll look at the 6 big ideas that really drive the whole curriculum, see what it actually looks like in a classroom, and then, finally, we'll talk about how this kind of learning can be supported even after the school bell rings. Okay, first up, a mission for learning. To really get the PYP, you have to understand the philosophy, the core beliefs that power the whole thing. At its heart, an IB education really stands on 4 key pillars. First, it's all about the students. It's centered on them. It's also about developing skills for how to learn, not just memorizing what to learn. Third, it puts everything in a global context, exploring these big ideas that matter to all of us. And finally, the content itself is all connected and conceptual, not just a random list of facts. So, how does a big philosophy like that actually turn into a curriculum? Let's take a look at the PYP framework to see how these big ideas get organized into what kids actually learn. So this here is the classic model of the PYP. You can see all the usual subjects, language, math, science, but they aren't just taught in their own little boxes. Nope, they're all used to explore those 6 big overarching themes you see in the outside ring. And right there, at the very center of it all, the learner. Now, this diagram shows how the PYP has evolved, and right at the absolute core of the learner, the teaching, everything, is one incredibly powerful idea: agency. This is a game changer. It means students are actual partners in their own education. They get a voice, they get to make choices, and they take real ownership of their learning journey. So what exactly is agency? Well, it's this belief that students aren't just empty buckets waiting to be filled with information. They have the power, right now, to take meaningful action. When a school really encourages agency, it empowers kids to ask their own questions, follow their own interests, and take charge of their own progress. Suddenly, they're in the driver's seat. And the whole goal is to help students develop these 10 traits, which is what's known as the IB Learner Profile. This is everything from being curious, inquirers, to being caring individuals. This profile is the guide for pretty much everything that happens in a PYP school. The idea is to develop well-rounded human beings with skills that go way, way beyond just passing a test. Now, these principles are brought to life through 6 huge ideas. These are what they call transdisciplinary themes, which is just a fancy way of saying they connect all the different subjects and tie the learning to the real world, which makes it all feel so much more relevant. First up, we have who we are. This theme is all about students exploring their own identity, their beliefs, their values. It's really an investigation into what makes us human, from our own health to how we fit into our communities. Next is where we are in place and time. This one explores how we fit into the world, both geographically and historically. Students might look into their own family trees, or maybe the great migrations of people, or even the discoveries that totally changed how we see the planet. Third on the list is how we express ourselves. This theme is a deep dive into all the different ways we share our ideas and feelings. It's an exploration of creativity, culture, and the arts, covering everything from ancient storytelling to modern digital media. The fourth theme, how the world works, is where we get into science and technology. Students investigate the natural world, its fundamental laws, and how scientific breakthroughs end up shaping our society and our planet. Number 5 is how we organize ourselves. This theme explores all the systems that people create, from governments and economies to local community groups. It's basically civics and sociology, helping kids understand how the world of work and community actually functions. And finally, we have sharing the planet. This theme is a really deep dive into what it means to be a global citizen. It tackles our rights and our responsibilities in sharing the planet's limited resources, our connection to all living things, and even the search for peace. Okay, so we've got the philosophy and we've got the framework. But what does this actually look like day to day? How does it all come together in a real classroom? A perfect example of the PYP in action is the exhibition. This is the big, culminating project at the end of the program. Students get together in groups to investigate a real-life issue that they're passionate about. They do the research, they come up with solutions, and they share what they found with the whole community. It's a huge showcase of their agency and just how much they've grown as learners. Now, this kind of deep learning, it really needs a strong community behind it. And since learning doesn't just stop when kids leave school, the final piece of this whole puzzle is getting parents involved as true partners in this journey. So, that leads to a really important question. How can you, as a parent or a caregiver, actually help support this inquiry-based way of thinking at home? How do you become a partner in this? Well, here are 5 simple but really powerful strategies. First, take an inquiry stance. That means when they ask a question, you meet it with another question. Help them see the big picture ideas. Support their agency by letting them make choices and take ownership. Make time to reflect, not just on what they learned, but how they learned it. And finally, give feedback that's about the process and what comes next, not just the final grade. This little comparison right here really gets to the absolute heart of the PYP mindset. Instead of asking that classic question, what did you learn today, which is all about finding answers, try asking, what questions did you ask today? That one tiny change shows that you value curiosity and the whole process of learning itself. And look, this isn't some niche experimental theory. The PYP is a trusted global framework. We're talking about a network of over 1,400 schools spread across more than 100 countries, all of them committed to this shared philosophy of learning. So let's end right where we began, with a question. The PYP is a framework that's built on this idea that the journey of asking questions is just as important as finding the answers. It's an education that prepares kids not just for tests, but for a really complex, unpredictable world by teaching them how to be curious, compassionate, and to never stop learning. And it leaves us with this final thought. What if the goal of education isn't just to find answers, but to get better and better at asking questions?